I'm Elise Barker, and on behalf of the United War Veterans Council and the entire New York City veterans community, I'm thrilled to present to you highlights of this year's New York City Veterans Day Parade, along with my good friends at Pix 11, Dan Manarino, Betty Nguyen, and Marvin Scott. There's so much to see, so let's get going.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Held on New York's iconic Fifth Avenue, the New York Veterans Day Parade strives to ensure that the public always embraces its commitment to provide all veterans and their families with the care, recognition, and opportunities they have rightfully earned. The New York City Parade leads a growing coalition of Veterans Day communities across the country that are all building to the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day in 2019. Through the Veterans Day USA Network, the New York Parade is linking to veterans celebrations in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Miami, Cleveland, and Dallas. The featured service in 2017 is the United States Air Force, whose motto is Aim High, Fly, Fight, Win. And the Grand Marshal this year is Buzz Aldrin, a former Air Force pilot, and he also walked on the moon. We also commemorate the centennial of the American entry into World War I, as well as 100 years of American combat aviation and American women in the military.
From Fifth Avenue in the heart of Manhattan, it's the 2017 New York City Veterans Day Parade. Now here are your hosts, Betty Nguyen and Dan Manarino.
Well, hello everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. What a day we have on tap for you. We have several hours of wonderful parade to show you. We're going to have active military members. We're going to have veterans. We're going to have marching bands. You name it, we have it. And what a glorious day. I know it's a little chilly out here, but it hasn't stopped the crowd behind us. They have come out indeed to see these veterans and, more importantly, to honor them for their service.
Yes, it is a packed Fifth Avenue on this very exciting day, the 100th anniversary of the U.S. entry into World War I back in 1917. Can you believe this? We're celebrating also today 100 years of service of women in the service. Incredible stuff happening
also
today.
The 70th birthday of the U.S. Air Force. So a lot to celebrate on this beautiful Saturday. I want to bring in Paul Buca. He is a Medal of Honor recipient, and he is going to be joining us, helping us this morning as we really usher you into the parade goers behind us. And Paul, you know, you have served quite a bit, and you've been honored for that. This must mean a lot to you to see the crowds come out today and honor veterans.
It's great to have the crowds here, but more importantly, the veterans get to give them their peers validation, meaning as they march, it's men and women on their left and right. If they say we're proud, that's what really counts to the vets.
Listen, Paul, you were sent to Vietnam back in 1967 at the age of 24. As we look at the parade right now coming up Fifth Avenue, so many people want to know, what's it like coming back home? What was that like for you?
Well, Vietnam was different. And we took it a vow amongst ourselves that it would never happen again. When I got home, I landed at Sacramento, and as we loaded up the plane, everybody had been dirty and kind of down because they were leaving combat zones. 30 seconds before they opened that door, they had their medals on and their hair pushed back. And the first thing they heard, knock off the noise. The officers on the left, enlisted on the right, we'll get you out of here as soon as possible. Not one word of thank you.
Wow.
But as I was looking at the line coming down, the men were hugging each other.
Yes.
And when the guy got to me, he said, "Sir, welcome home. I love you."
Wow.
And at that point, I realized that's what mattered.
Yeah.
Was that the
Absolutely.
men and women we serve with gravitate to each other and say thank you.
Look at this flag that you're looking at right now, the 60 by 30, 92-pound American flag as it comes up Fifth Avenue, donated by Valley Forge Flags to Ground Zero volunteers during the rescue and recovery operations after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001.
Every year, the parade showcases one of our nation's military services as its featured service branch. This year, we are honoring the United States Air Force. Let's meet some of our special guests representing the Air Force this year.
We're honored to be joined by Air Force General Ellen Pawlikowski, Commander for the Air Force Material Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for letting me join you.
How is it feeling being here along Fifth Avenue in New York City today?
Oh, it's amazing. It's just, I always loved this parade. I grew up in North Jersey, and I used to watch this parade on television every year, and it's just great to be a part of it.
Let's talk about the current operations, the snapshot. Give us a little bit of a picture of how many people are actually deployed today and where they are.
Well, there are about 80,000 airmen that are around the world today, and about 20,000 of them are actually in harm's way. We have airmen that are flying missions in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and even over Syria. And then at the same time, we have airmen that are sitting watch in ICBM silos to protect us for our national security. We have airmen that are flying GPS satellites, bringing that to you every day so you know where you're going, as well as operations in the Pacific, in Korea, and literally all over the world.
All right, General, we do appreciate you joining us and providing your insight, and most of all, we thank you for your service and all that you have done.
Well, thank you.
All right, we will continue to be monitoring this parade here as they march down Fifth Avenue. Stay with us. A lot more still ahead.
The United War Veterans Council is proud to produce the New York City Veterans Day Parade. We are also linking to events across the country through the Veterans Day USA Network. In addition to the parade and our other events, we carry out a wide range of programs serving veterans and their families. Our work is made possible by the support of patriotic partners and members of the public. To learn more, visit uwvc.org.
Every year, New York City rolls out the red carpet for our veterans on November 11th. Many of those marching today continue to serve as police officers, firefighters, and in other public service jobs. We salute all of those who continue to contribute to our communities. Our World War II veterans have been called the greatest generation. They not only won the Second World War, but after the fighting was over, they reached out the hand of friendship to both their allies and former enemies to help rebuild the world together. Our World War II veterans may be fading into the twilight, but their impact will be felt for years to come. As long as we make sure their achievements and example of service are always remembered, especially by our young people. Let's meet a very special guest representing our World War II generation.
There are so many veterans. There are an estimated 20 million veterans throughout the United States today. I'm with a veteran from World War II. There are about 500,000 World War II veterans with us. And Luke Gaspari, who's from Astoria, Queens, and he served with General Patton in 1944. What was that, the Battle of the Bulge?
Battle of the Bulge, yes.
What was that? Tell us about it. What was your remembrances?
Well, I came from the States into England, from England to France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, and into Germany. That's when we started out World War II.
Now, a lot of time has passed by, but would you share with us what is in your heart, your feelings in your heart today as you walk up Fifth Avenue? You were here in 1945 for the Victory Parade.
Yes, it was terrific. I would say I enjoyed myself coming up Fifth Avenue in a parade. It was beautiful.
The United States Army is not only the oldest service branch, it is also the largest. More Americans have served in the Army than in any other area of service. Today we have a number of units throughout the area representing the active, reserve, and guard components of our Army. Many of these units are celebrating their own centennials this year, with heritage reaching back to the First World War.
Right now with Major General Mark Balzer, how is the Army dealing with the veterans coming home and how to deal with transitioning back into civilian life?
So the Army has a number of different programs, but one of the big things that we do is we have a public-private partnership where we help them get jobs. We work with them in that regard. We also do an awful lot of counseling. We make a lot of services available to them. Whether they're still in the Army or as they get out, we transition them into some of the community-based operations or community-based capabilities. But the Army as a whole has done a great job in this regard. And I tell you, it's pretty neat marching up Fifth Avenue and seeing all these great people and being honored in such a great city as New York.
Well, Major General Mark Balzer, thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
For many years, the Korean War was called the Forgotten War. In this country, veterans of that conflict received little or no recognition for their service, but the South Koreans never forgot. Every year, they make it a point to show their support and gratitude for the service and sacrifice of our Korean veterans in defense of their freedom. Today, as always, the United States and South Korea stand together as allies and friends. Sal, you're with us along the parade route every year. What does this mean to you as a Korean War veteran and the relationship with Ambassador Kim?
This parade means a lot. It means that it shows you that veterans are brothers and sisters, and we fought for one cause, freedom. And you know, freedom is not free. And on my right, my good friend, the Ambassador Kim, who we've been so acquainted with for the past 3 years. Unfortunately, we're going to lose him. He's going back to Korea. But thank God he was here to help all Korean War vets that are in need.
And a wonderful supporter of the parade, so thank you for being with us. Do you have any words for the participants in today's parade?
Thank you. I thank Korean War veterans for their service. Without their sacrifices or courage, Korea would not be what it is now. I'm really privileged to express deep gratitude for Korean people and Korean government for their services.
We had a number of Korean veterans marching in this parade today, and they are being honored as well. This man, Tony Millay, is carrying on their legacy through an organization called the Born Kinnear, and you are the chairman of the 65th Infantry Task Force.
Yes, sir.
What is the Born Kinnear?
The Born Kinnears are the veterans of the 65th Infantry Regiment of Puerto Rico, comprised primarily of soldiers from Puerto Rico, and the Borinqueneers distinguished themselves during the Korean War by conducting what became the last battalion-sized bayonet charge in American military history, culminating among their other gallant feats in battle, received the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the highest award that the United States people can bestow on a regiment.
And this medal, I know, is very significant. You were telling me before. What is this?
Yes, sir. That is the medallion, a replica of the Congressional Gold Medal. That elevated the Borinqueneers to the status of national treasures. That puts them in the same rank as the Tuskegee Airmen, the Navajo Code Talkers, the Nisei Japanese American fighters of World War II, and now the Borinqueneers have been added to those ranks.
So they have quite a legacy, and it's nice to be here and honor them among all the other veterans of the other wars today.
It's my privilege and honor to be among heroes.
Tony Millay, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, sir.
When our troops are sent into harm's way, their families also make sacrifices. Some families make the ultimate sacrifice, losing a loved one in service to our nation. We honor these families. We thank them for what they have given to America, and we promise that we will always remember their loved one's legacy. Hello, everybody. I am here with Emily Turo, Gold Star mom, and Carol Ruane, a Blue Star mom. Carol, tell me what it's like being a Blue Star mother.
Being a Blue Star mom sometimes is hard, missing my son when he's away. But the support that we have in the Blue Star moms with one another is priceless. We support one another, especially our Gold Star families, and being together, that helps. That helps a lot, because nobody understands what the sacrifices military families go through like other military families.
Absolutely, and especially Gold Star mothers. Emily, you're very involved in all veterans organizations, and of course, Gold Star mothers. Tell us about your service and dedication to Isaac.
Losing Isaac opened up my eyes to a whole new world. I love what I do. I love bringing support and supporting our veterans and being here. As you know, I'm here every year. And this is a place where I want to support and give thanks to our veterans because they're the ones that pay the ultimate sacrifice and serve our country to protect our freedom.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you for everything. Thank you for always being here and supporting our veterans and your service and sacrifice as well. There's more of the New York City Veterans Day Parade coming your way when we return.
I think it's difficult for a lot of veterans to get help, because there's a big stigma attached with getting help. A lot of them see it as a sign of weakness. But I also think it's important that we realize that a lot of veterans don't get help because they don't think it's going to help. A lot of veterans don't understand that mental health is actually medicine that can actually work and help them get their lives back on track. I tell family members, loved ones who are trying to get a veteran to get help to not give up. To remember that it's not them, that they have a very physical wound that you just can't see, and that you can't give up on them. And that at that point in time, when they are finally willing to get help, they need to know that they shouldn't feel shame, they shouldn't feel guilty, and that the door is always open.
In World War II, 10% of our nation participated in the war. Since 9/11, less than 0.5% have participated. Between 2015 and I believe 2040, the VA is projecting that the post-9/11 and Gulf War era veterans population will eclipse the Vietnam veteran, Korean veteran, and World War II era population. The reason the transition is important is because when my generation came home from our wars, and many of us are still fighting our wars, there was a need to honor service and to recognize the value that us as individuals and as a group bring to our larger community. When the next generation of veterans comes home, the veterans community needs to be prepared to receive them, be prepared to provide them with the opportunity to take the experiences that they've earned and to put them to good use for their larger community.
Every year, we welcome our elected leaders and public officials who make a point to come out and salute our veterans. They know that our democratic government is built on the sacrifices of those who serve. Every year, the New York City Veterans Day Parade selects as its Grand Marshal a veteran with not only a record of military service, but who has continued to contribute to our nation, society, and communities after hanging up their uniform. This year's Grand Marshal exemplifies this tradition. Buzz Aldrin has put his life on the line for America as a space pioneer and continues to serve today as an advocate for space exploration and for education. When America's Vietnam veterans returned home in the late 60s and early 70s, they found that the nation wanted to simply forget the war and move on, leaving those who had served and sacrificed to fend for themselves. During these difficult times, our Vietnam veterans came together to support each other. You can see the camaraderie of our Vietnam veterans on display here today, as they march together and receive the recognition they have so rightfully earned. It's wonderful to see so many companies showing their support for our veterans, and it's especially encouraging to see how many are working to ensure that our veterans and transitioning military receive the opportunities they have so rightfully earned.
Today is a special day.
Yes.
It's celebrating our veterans who are the half of the 1% that put their lives on the line to preserve our freedom. So how can we not love every minute of today? Veterans do pretty well under pressure. I think we can agree. They are collaborative. Their lives have depended upon teamwork and their leaders. So we believe hiring that caliber of person changes the ethos of your firm. And beyond all that, they're some of the best educated young men and women that you could put to work at your firm. They will raise the bar.
We are looking to hire veterans that are interested in getting out into the workforce for precision and excellence and dedication and real hardworking mentalities. Veterans are the best place to look.
We think it's a great fit because these people understand what it's like to work hard out in the field and work long hours.
There are certain characteristics that we think veterans bring. They bring fortitude, they bring teamwork, they bring leadership, and I think that's applicable to any of the businesses that are interested in hiring veterans. I think when we began this effort, a lot of it was done out of altruism. They felt like they owed these people who had served their country to give them a job. But I think what we've all found collectively is that veterans are good for business.
We know that there are over 2.5 million veteran-owned businesses in the country doing $1 trillion in receipts every year. It's a great business to be in business with a veteran. We're happy to hire veterans, help them start their businesses. Hug your veteran today. Happy Veterans Day.
Those of us who serve, we've heard the term overcome and adapt. That's what veterans do. Veterans are problem solvers. I myself am a small business. I started my own firm back in 2010, haven't looked back since. One of the challenges that veterans face when they transition from the military to the business world is how to develop that network, that team. There's lots of great programs out there for all veterans to take advantage of, and you should as well.
The United States Marines have a long history of valor and honor. They have a reputation for toughness and never back down from a challenge. Perhaps that's why so many Marines end up in New York City after their service. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, especially if you've already made it as a U.S. Marine.
Let's bring in Michael Linnington right now. He's the CEO of the Wounded Warrior Project. So thank you for coming over here today, joining us in the booth.
Thank you.
Happy to have
Thanks
you here.
for being with us today.
My
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thanks for having us on, and thanks for honoring us in the parade today. We serve over 108,000 wounded warriors, and as you mentioned, these are the most seriously wounded service members that have served since the attacks on our country on 9/11. But since then, 3 million veterans have served. Of those, more than 52,000 have physical wounds, and there are hundreds of thousands with psychological wounds, mental wounds. And those are the groups that we're trying to reach out to most and provide them care and services. My mission today is about reaching out, raising awareness for them, and letting them know we're there for them.
Look, you would think it's a no-brainer, really, to help our veterans as they come home, especially those who are wounded. Why is it such an issue for returning veterans to get them the necessary help that they need?
Sometimes they're isolated in areas where the VA isn't there for them. Sometimes they feel like they're not worthy. I mean, if you have, especially for the invisible wounds, if you don't have a physical wound, a lot of folks believe they're not worthy. They are worthy. I mean, if you break your arm, you go get help. If you have traumatic incidents that have happened while you were deployed, you need to get help as well. So get out, get help, treatment works, and be there for each other. I just ask you, come support us, support your veterans, and support other veterans organizations as well.
For nearly 2.5 centuries, the United States Navy has kept our nation safe. This year, our local Navy units are joined by the crews of 2 Navy ships. The USS The Sullivans, named for the 5 brothers lost in service together during World War II, and the USS Hue City, named after the Vietnam War battle.
New York is a Navy town. We have thousands of sailors here every year for Fleet Week. They show up for Veterans Day. They take part in this parade. And you're from South Carolina, and great to be up here today and take part in this parade.
It certainly is. Every time I come to New York, I always feel welcome here. And you know, it's New, as you said, New York's a Navy town. And historically, the Navy's been here since our inception. It was one of the original shipyards, building ships, been right here in Brooklyn. So for the Navy, this is like coming home.
The United States entered World War I 100 years ago. Our involvement in that conflict was the first truly national effort following the great upheaval of the Civil War. Americans from across the country and from all backgrounds stepped forward to answer our nation's call. 1 in 10 Americans who served were from New York. 4 out of 5 soldiers who went overseas passed through New York Harbor. New York was central to our nation's World War I experience. Let's learn more about how our nation is working to remember the contributions of our World War I generation.
I want to bring in now Dr. Libby O'Connell here, United States World War I Centennial Commission. And as you watch this parade, it's really wonderful, isn't it? Especially for someone who looks at history and studies it, to see us stop and honor the service of these men and women.
Our veterans are such an important part of our history, and their stories are our stories. They shaped America, and I'm so proud to be here to be able to say thank you to our veterans today. On behalf of the World War I Centennial, so few people have even heard of World War I these days. And we're really pleased to be here.
Well, look, World War I was the only war without a national memorial in Washington, D.C.
That's right. And just a couple days ago, we had a groundbreaking ceremony there, and we brought soil from the Meuse Argonne. So there was soil from the battlefield in France where so many American soldiers lost their lives. We lost more than 116,000 men and women enlisted in during World War I. That's more than Korea and Vietnam combined. And very few people know really that what happened during the war and that story. Our country was, like it is today, a nation of immigrants. And there was a real concern, would everybody gather together and identify as Americans?
Right.
And they did, and it really made America what it is today. The women were working in the munitions factories, they were working as volunteers, and they were working as soldiers and sailors. That helped women get the right to vote. World War I has never had a national memorial right in our nation's capital. So if people want to learn more about it, it's www.cc.org/memorial, and you'll learn about it.
What's the time? 9? Falling line. All right, boys, now take it slow. Get it, set it, very good idea. Over the top, let's go. There's a minute weather coming, look out. Hear that roar, there's one more. That's the life of a stroll when you take a patrol. Out in no man's land, ain't it grand? Out in no man's land.
Let's bring in retired Army Brigadier General and psychiatrist, but more importantly, the Commissioner now of the New York City Department of Veterans Affairs, General Lori Sutton. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's so great to be here.
We are happy to have you.
Is this a great day?
Well, I can feel your energy. As soon as you stepped up here to the booth, I tell you what, you have brought in that energy from out there on 5th Avenue right up here. And it really is a glorious day, isn't it? It's wonderful to take a moment to honor our veterans.
It is. You know, at the Department of Veteran Services, every day is Veterans Day.
Yes.
True.
But on actually Veterans Day, we truly are blessed. And to have everyone in the city come out and all of the services and family members and allies, we just truly are thrilled to be here.
Can you talk a little bit about what exactly you do for veterans in your department for the city of New York?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're doing in New York City what no other city has yet done. We've stood up this department under Mayor de Blasio's leadership, the city council, and all of our veteran advocates. And so here's what we're doing. We are, first of all, we've ended chronic veteran homelessness. We're still working on that initiative. We get 80 to 100 new homeless veterans every month, so it's an ongoing effort, but we're very proud of that.
How are you stopping that? How are you stemming that tide, if you will?
So we have access to all of the resources that every other city did, and as a country, we've been able to reduce veteran homelessness by 47% the last 5 years. That's fantastic. In New York City, where the vacancy rate is less than 1% for affordable housing, we have decreased it by 90%. And we've done it through not only partnerships and policies and programs and leadership at all levels, but we've also had a city government that has said, let's take a population look at this. The federal programs cover these veterans, but we want something for every veteran. And that's made the difference here in New York City.
You know, you have an incredible program that I love. It's the Mentor a Vet NYC. So how can you get involved in that? If people are watching at home and say, you know what, I want to help. I may not have the finances, but how can I be a mentor?
Absolutely. So we've just kicked off. It's called Mentor a Vet NYC. It's part of our Veterans on Campus initiative, which is a citywide veterans educational consortium to really lift the bar for all 12,000 plus student veterans that are all across the city. We know how veterans and their family members, you know, when we're in the service, we have mentors, we have coaches, we have sponsors between duty stations. So Mentor a Vet NYC, if you just Google NYC Mentor a Vet, it'll come right up on your Google platform, and you can contact us because we have 25 of the leading organizations that do mentoring with veterans and their family members, and we'll work with you to find the right fit. It's a fantastic program.
New York City is, of course, a harbor city, and the Coast Guard plays a vital role in ensuring our safety and security here every day. The Coast Guard has defended our nation's shores for over 2 centuries and also supported our military forces in places like Omaha Beach and Da Nang. We have a large Coast Guard contingent marching today, and many of them will go on right after they've finished the parade route. Let's learn more. I actually have here Captain Jason Tama of the U.S. Coast Guard. Thank you for being with us. Happy Veterans Day. New York City is a harbor city. How does the Coast Guard protect New York City, boots on the ground every single day?
Well, thanks for asking. I mean, we're one of the biggest ports in the United States, and the Coast Guard's actually been here since 1790 when we were founded by Alexander Hamilton through an act of Congress right in Lower Manhattan. So we've got Coast Guard men and women out 24/7, 365, on the water, on shore, doing what we can to keep the harbor safe, keep it secure, and help keep the commerce flowing.
What made you join the Coast Guard and choose the Coast Guard as your branch of service?
Well, I always liked the water, and I always wanted to serve. And the Coast Guard seemed like the perfect option to do both of those things. And I've been in for 22 years now, and if I rewound the tape, I'd do it all over again. It's just been a tremendous honor and privilege to be able to serve.
Well, it's an honor and privilege to have you with us here today, so thank you so much. For many of our most recent veterans, whether they served in Afghanistan or Iraq, our latest generation of veterans shares some unique characteristics. All of them signed up as volunteers. Many were called up as reservists or members of the National Guard, and many served multiple deployments overseas. They and their families represent only about 1% of our population, but they bore the entire burden of America's recent wars on our behalf. The histories of the wars in Afghanistan and in Iraq are still being written, but what has already been set in stone is the stories of those who served with courage and dedication, who kept the faith with those who came before them, and who set their own example of service and sacrifice for our nation. Many of our newest veterans are using the current GI Bill to enroll in top colleges and universities. The original GI Bill after World War II was one of the most important pieces of social legislation in American history. By making education and housing affordable for returning servicemen, it mobilized the strength and experience of the World War II generation and helped America become the world leader it is today. Like their grandparents and great-grandparents, our new veterans will no doubt make a major contribution to the future of our nation.
It's important for veterans who have come home and who are transitioning home to know about their civilian supporters, the veterans allies out there.
One way our veteran allies can get knowledgeable about the issues is to talk to veterans, ask them the questions. The more involved and knowledgeable you are as a veteran ally, the better able you are to help that transitioning service member return to an active and normal lifestyle.
Bring in Jim Wartsky. He is Director of Veterans Experience Office. Jim, talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Well, as the director of the community engagement team for the Veterans Experience Office at the VA, it is our pleasure to partner cross country with all the different communities. And of course, we know New York is a huge community, but we are so privileged to have people like Commissioner Sutton working with us and a team that I have that are working with all the non-for-profits and all. And our request is that the VA has the opportunity to be in the communities with all of the veterans who are here and the veteran 501c3 non-for-profits and all that are supporting us. So thank you very much for being here. It really is a pleasure.
Talk to us about the Community Veterans Engagement Board and really how you are able to reach out to so many veterans that are in need.
So thank you very much for saying that and bringing that up, because the Veterans Engagement Community Boards is really all about the communities and working within the communities. The VA is an organization that wants to partner with them, because the best outreach we have, the best communication that we have with veterans who are coming into a great city like the Big Apple in New York can now be working with organizations who are looking to help them. We want to be there with their side. And if there's anything we could do medically, getting in benefits, or whatever the journey map is during their lives, we're there to support them with the communities.
Down there along Fifth Avenue is our Marvin Scott. So Marvin, how you doing down there?
Okay, and it's warming up a little bit, Dan. So we're here now with Renee Stone. And you know, one of the lasting injuries many of our servicemen and women are returning from Afghanistan or Iraq with is post-traumatic stress disorder. And Renee runs Serenity Stables out of Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. And the theme you have is From Combat to Calm. You have a unique therapy that you provide these service people.
Correct.
Tell us about it.
So we do a different type of healing where we bring veterans, both able-bodied and disabled veterans, out to the farm, and we put them in with the herd, and we allow the horses to roam freely and engage and have interaction with the veterans.
This is rather unique, equine therapy.
Correct.
And how do these horses interact with these veterans?
Well, so horses have been around for millions of years, and they have a high level sensory system. They can hear your heartbeat 4 feet away. So what they do is they pick up on the emotion of the veteran, and then they mirror it back at them, allowing the veteran to become present within the moment. And that's where the healing really begins. And it helps lower their blood pressure and brighten their spirits and allow them to really recognize the trauma that is happening on a subconscious level. And the effects last long after they leave.
From Combat to Calm, thank you for what you do.
The American Legion is the largest veterans group in the world, and they are proudly represented here today by a number of their posts from NYC and beyond. They are partnered with the United War Veterans Council to launch a national network of Veterans Day celebrations, leading up to the Veterans Day Centennial in 2019. Let's find out more.
the American Legion has a special place in my heart because it's a place where my father, who served in 3 wars, was able to go and find camaraderie after serving. He was actually a post commander in Whitney, Texas for many, many years. He's no longer with us, but I grew up in many American Legions, and it's a place that I learned to really honor the veterans who have come before us. So thank you for what you've done. But talk to us about the American Legion and what kind of a place it serves and provides for our veterans.
Well, like you just said, it's all about camaraderie. My theme for the year is family first. So it really is all about when you join the military, you get a new family when you go to basic training. You start depending on one another, taking care of one another. And then as you transfer from one base to another, again, you get another family. But as you just said, the American Legion gives you another family. When you get out, it gives you a sense to be part of the community. And it is, like Dan said, all about advocacy and taking care of veterans. So you can say, Happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service. But then there's that advocacy that comes after it. And that's what the American Legion family is all about.
Want to welcome Dan McSweeney, a Marine veteran of Iraq and president of the United War Veterans Council, to the booth right now. Hey. You're going to be joining us for the next couple half hour or so?
About an hour.
There we go for the next hour.
We're not going to cut his time short.
I don't want to cut his time short. One Dan to another.
I don't want to be a drag, but you know.
Well, indeed you won't be. Talk to us a little bit about what you've experienced. You've been out here for quite a bit today, right?
Sure.
You've been able to talk with some of the veterans. How are they feeling?
Absolutely. So this is a great opportunity for us as veterans to show New York City and by extension the rest of the country that we're serious about wanting to take care of our veterans and their families. And so this event is not really a celebration per se, it's a form of advocacy.
Absolutely.
And we're very strong about the fact that we got to get the veterans' perspectives as well as the perspectives of their families into the minds of our policymakers.
You know, Dan, this parade continues to grow every year. It's the largest in the country, but you're hoping to grow it even more in future years.
That's right. We are linking this year to events in 5 of the cities. And it's part of the Veterans Day USA Network. We want to get to 10 major cities in 2019, which is the centennial.
Wow.
That would be fantastic.
The junior ROTC contingent of the parade includes hundreds of high school students who have committed to a program that instills respect, discipline, and motivation. Many of these young people choose to serve in our military. Many more take what they have learned in other careers or college, using the skills and values they have learned throughout their lives. Numerous civic organizations come out to show their support for our veterans each year. They help demonstrate the true breadth of our veterans community and its allies. A final word on New York City Veterans Day Parade and this year's Veterans Day when we return.
The United War Veterans Council is proud to produce the New York City Veterans Day Parade. We are also linking to events across the country through the Veterans Day USA Network. In addition to the parade and our other events, we carry out a wide range of programs serving veterans and their families. Our work is made possible by the support of patriotic partners and members of the public. To learn more, visit uwvc.org.
City Veterans Day Parade. We're so glad you made the parade part of your Veterans Day observation. We hope you'll join us again next year. Maybe you might even come to New York City and see the parade in person. In the meantime, we encourage you to continue to support veterans events and initiatives in your own communities, not just on Veterans Day, but every day of the year.
Thank you so much. And Dan, you have some final words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. This is really about honoring and supporting veterans and their families, because that's the morally right thing to do, but it's also a smart thing to do because they bring so much talent and ability to their local neighborhoods. So through this parade and through the Veterans Day USA Network, we do that. And I want to just offer these tokens of our appreciation.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
This is
carrying it.
gorgeous.
We appreciate our relationship.
You can't put it on with the headset on, but you know what? This has been an incredible day. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. And I just want to say a special thank you to my grandfather for his service, but every single one of the veterans out there. We honor you today and every single day.
Yes, absolutely. And as the daughter of a man who served in 3 wars for this great country, a Bronze Star winner, a recipient, I should say, it's been an honor to be here today. Thank you for watching the 2017 Veterans Day Parade, and we honor you, and we thank you for your service.